The Great Wall of China represents China's architectural skill as well as a long history of a country defending its borders from foreign invasion. It also affirms the presence of an enormous central infrastructure that is required to maintain and fortify a great country where 1.3 billion of the Earth's population call their home. This presentation is prepared for the business-minded visionaries who are highly motivated to embark on an exciting journey and who aspire to mark their names in the world of global business by considering opportunities in China. We will journey together to explore how the Great Wall came to Wall Street. China is positioned fairly centrally in the continent of Asia. It is strategically located to bridge Europe and America via the Pacific Ocean. The first written record of foreign exchange of information and merchandise comes from the stories written by Marco Polo of Italy. His travels to China in 1725 were more explorative than for business profit, but nevertheless he returned with silk, spices, porcelain, and other objects that were not as well known to the Mediterranean consumers at that time. The Silk Road is the earliest of the known trade routes developed during the Han Dynasty in 206 BC, linking China to Europe as well as Asia. This was also the route that Marco Polo used to travel to China. China has been involved in international business for thousands of years. One of the earliest terracotta statuettes is the image of a Western male dancer created during the Tang Dynasty in 8600. It reflects the influence of the Europeans in Chinese sculpture art. Europe was also influenced by Chinese art and design. These examples of mid-15th century Italian pottery incorporate the colors that represent the Ming Dynasty, which are blue and white. Many foreign countries have been interested in China for economic, political, and geographical reasons as depicted by this French cartoon from the late 1890s. The countries representing the United Kingdom, Germany, Russia, France, and Japan all fight for a piece of China. After the fall of China's last dynasty, the Qing Dynasty, the American-educated Dr. Sun Yat-sen established three principles: peace, freedom, including freedom of religion, and equality to be the basis of the new modern China. Unfortunately, these principles were not realized by the time of his death. Since the inception of the People's Republic of China in 1949, the economic status of China has experienced tremendous change. In the eyes of the foreigner, the time period of Chairman Mao Zedong's regime represents market seclusion and secrecy. The communist government forbade ownership of land and marketing by the farmers, which led to decreased production and starvation. During the famine and the Cultural Revolution, tens of millions of lives were lost or squandered away. In 1978, however, Deng Xiaoping promoted a market-oriented economic development resulting in expansion of personal choice and increasing presence of free market economy. He was instrumental in starting the economic reform so long waited for by the people of China. During this time, Boeing sold the 747 aircrafts to various airlines in the People's Republic of China, and Coca-Cola Company planned a production plant in Shanghai. This time period also marks the start of large-scale economic commerce between China and the United States. So why should you be interested in engaging in economic and technological business with China? It is because this is the view of our world as viewed by 20% of the world's population. Currently, over 6.5 billion people live in the world, of which over 1.3 billion reside in the country of China. The Chinese economic reform trend from 1952 to 2005 illustrates a rapid increase in the gross domestic product, or GDP. As illustrated, the increase is almost logarithmic. Even with Deng's step-down in 1989, the country continued to progress as initially expected by his modernization plan for China. The economic reforms allowed expansion of agriculture and liberalization of prices, increased autonomy for state enterprises, diversified banking system, and development of stock markets. This also stimulated rapid growth of the private sector and opened businesses to foreign trade and investment. The lands were allocated for lease to the farmers who then developed it and cultivated crops. This is an example of terraced rice paddies. The people's basic food needs were satisfied, and they were able to actively engage in economic reform. The Shanghai Stock Exchange is the world's fifth largest stock market. Although the market was initially limited to domestic investors, there is a growing number of foreign investors in the current time. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization, allowing participation in the multilateral trading system while providing a predictable environment for trade and foreign investments to better integrate into the world economy. Since then, there has been a tremendous flux of multinational corporations, from production to service-oriented businesses, benefiting from business relations with China. Telecommunications in China are provided by China Telecom, China Unicom, and China Mobile. New regulations are now being established so that foreign operators are gradually able to access this market. Patent and copyrights are not upheld by many local businesses that thrive on piracy of foreign media. The Chinese government is taking increasing measures to ban illegal material from being circulated and purchased in the black market. The typical tax rate for foreign investments with establishment in China is 33% and 20% if there is no establishment. Tax exemptions or tax reductions may be granted to certain enterprises with foreign investment, especially those engaged in technologically advanced enterprises established in special economic zones. Furthermore, foreign investors who reinvest its profit to increase capital or establish another enterprise may receive a tax refund. Geographically, China is the fourth largest country in the world by land area and borders with 14 nations, which are also potential sites for foreign trade and commerce. The varying climates in different regions of the country allow biodiversity in its landscapes. China is the only native home to the giant pandas. Other natural resources include coal, iron ore, petroleum, and natural gas. The Environmental Protection Law of 1979 was passed to regulate the deterioration of the environment. China is making efforts to enforce these regulations to clean up and preserve the damaged landscapes and water reserves. China is also a leading investor of renewable energy technology. Water, solar, wind, and geothermal sources of energies are being developed. The Debancheng project in Jiangxing is the largest Asian wind farm with 118 giant turbines standing across miles of land. It is projected to produce about 10% of China's energy needs. China's Three Gorges Dam is also the largest dam in the world, producing over 20,000 megawatts compared to the Grand Coulee Dam in Washington that produces about 6,800 megawatts. Energy is important for a growing economy as it supports the day-to-day function of manufacturing plants, research and development institutions, as well as the growing middle-class energy needs. Politically, the People's Republic of China is a Marxist-based communist government. The Chinese, though, view themselves as a socialist country with a strong authoritarian central government. The government places restriction on the internet, the press, the assembly of people, reproductive rights, and religious freedom. The current trend, however, is heading toward more transparency and openness as the government moves slowly and deliberately to minimize risk of social chaos with the rapid economic change. As more Chinese are educated abroad and assimilate to the Western culture, and the increased globalization of the current Chinese economy continues, individual openness to democratic ideology will be a matter of time. China has made formal diplomatic relations with many countries, including the United States. Former U.S. Presidents Bill Clinton and George Bush used free trade to gradually encourage China to open to democratic reform. The United States is China's most important export market. China's infrastructure has undergone significant changes also. The railway, roadway, waterway, and airport systems have increased dramatically in the last few decades. The building of these structures has increased the efficiency of production to market times for exported goods, as well as for traveling for both national and international tourists. China is the fourth most visited country in the world. Biodiversity as well as the growing economy attracts many foreigners to sightsee as well as do business with Chinese and other multinational companies. The 2008 Beijing Olympics was one of the grandest events in the world. With the growing presence of multinational companies within China, as well as the expansion of Chinese companies doing business with foreign companies, the corporate legal institutions provided necessary legal proceedings as well as guidance in the merging and acquisition process of international trade deals. For example, the Han Kun Law Firm, established by a Cornell Law School graduate, employs over 100 lawyers to meet such needs. The development of economic zones has also improved the efficiency of the numerous businesses' collaborative efforts. The economic zones can be seen as an organized geographic and demographic structure in any large Chinese city such as Beijing and Shanghai. Special tax considerations encourage multinational firms to establish their presence within these zones. The potential workforce in China are unparalleled to that of any country in the world. With 1.3 billion people in the country, there are approximately 815.3 million people who are in the labor force. With the growing middle class in China, many products manufactured in China, including electronics such as mobile phones, computers, and cars, are marketed within China. This decreases the economic dependence of China on foreign exports while increasing the standard of living for many families in China. More multinational businesses are also recognizing the growing middle class in China as an important target for consumption of their goods and services. The real estate market is on the rise as many of the middle class families now have enough to purchase their living quarters. The educational system in China is also undergoing significant growth and expansion. The university graduates provide science and technology workforce for the white-collar type jobs created by multinational technology and service companies. These white-collar workers also become part of the growing middle-class economy, further consuming the marketable goods and services of companies doing business in China as well as products imported from other countries. China has challenges with the implementation of labor laws and labor unions as well as inflation control. Careful regulation of the Chinese RMB and the banking industry, as well as the increased domestic consumption of Chinese goods, can ease the transition for China in becoming a leading developed country. Continual improvement in the environment, international relations, and human rights issues will continue to stimulate China's economic growth. Being a part of this great movement is sure to reward great dividends to those visionaries who decide to capture the gains from the flourishing Chinese economy today. And this is how the Great Wall has come to Wall Street. Listed are sources that were used to prepare for this presentation. Thank you.